Welcome to A Little Bit Forward. I'm Simon Waller, and this is the show where we have no intention of giving you answers and instead just pose interesting questions. Questions that might help us challenge some of the preconceived notions that we have about how our world, our work, and our lives operate. Today, we're going to be talking about the concept of value and specifically the difference between value creation and value extraction. I've been reading some of the work by Mariana Mazzucato, a European academic who wrote a book called The Value of Everything. And in this, she articulates a very powerful concept or thesis, this idea that we actually generally have a very poor understanding of value in most of society. And often when we talk about economic success, we conflate value with profit or value with revenue. That somehow that if an organization is generating lots of money, that is therefore generating lots of value. And she'd argue that that's entirely not true. And in fact, we need to distinguish between what she describes as value creation type activities and what we look at as value extraction activities. I read a blog that kind of articulated this fairly well. It talked about the idea that you had two towns on opposite sides of a river that wanted to trade with each other. And trade was problematic because it's a fast-flowing river and the boats would need to navigate the river and the waves and the tides to be able to facilitate trade. And so it's decided that the two towns will pool their resources together and build a bridge between the two of them. And that bridge was there to facilitate trade. So in this example, the concept of building the bridge is a value creation exercise. Value through trade is facilitated because the bridge gets built. It's then also decided, though, to pay for the bridge that we're going to put a toll point in the middle of it. So everybody who goes through that bridge or over that bridge has to pay a toll, and that's how we're going to pay for the bridge. And although that seems like a very legitimate thing to do, the toll itself does not create any value. In fact, it only extracts value from the value that has been created by the bridge. And again, entirely legitimate perhaps that it does so, but at the same time, it's a very interesting and unique differentiator between the two activities, between value creation and value extraction. And this concept of value extraction is I kind of want to find challenging, and perhaps one of my least liked terms in business is the concept of clipping the ticket. The idea that someone should get paid purely because a piece of paper or an offer or an idea or a contract went across the desk. Concept of clipping the ticket is I did no work, I added no value, but I still got paid because of my involvement in the process. Now, I think most organizations have a combination of value creation and value extraction activities. And a great example of this is potentially Meta or Facebook. You would argue that the very platform of Facebook when it was first created was incredibly value creating and facilitated the relationships between friends and family from across the world and the reconnection of lost friends. Over time, though, that's very much moved into a value extraction process. And this is the stuff that Cory Doctorow calls the enshittification of the internet or the enshittification of our platforms. Over time, Facebook or Meta has seeked to extract more value out of that platform. And in doing so, made it more and more worse. And some of the stats I saw the other day, which were fully disheartening, was that something like around $3 billion of ad revenue for Meta each year comes from Chinese scam organizations that they are fully aware of, but they're not willing to shut them down because they're not willing to forgo the ad revenue. I want you now to think a little bit about your own work and your own organization. What are some of the value creating activities that you are participating in? Equally, what are some of the value extracting activities that you're participating in? Value extraction may be a form of profit. It may be something that helps drive wages and remuneration for staff. But being able to understand clearly between those two things is deeply important. So in a second, you're going to get 5 minutes of silence to be able to ponder this question. So I'll frame it to you once again. What are the activities that you do or you participate in through your organization that are genuinely value creating? And what are the activities that are actually just value extracting?